Hey guys, welcome back to A-Level Lessons, and welcome to another more of a special kind of skills-based video that will generally be applicable to everyone. Alright, so in this video we're going to be looking at how do we study smart. Well, a lot of times you always hear a lot of your friends or your seniors or your teachers who would always lecture you on why you should study smart and not study hard. Right, so there's a stark difference between studying hard and studying smart. So what does it actually mean to study smart? It will be everything that we're going to be actually going through in this video today, right? So what are some things that you can take note of to study smart and not to study, I'm using the highlighter, not to study hard, right? Of course, studying hard is paramount as well, but when we look at A-levels, we always want to try and aim for a studying method that maximizes our efficiency while trying to be able to manage whatever content or the syllabus that is being thrown at you. So this is going to be the ultimate guide for a lot of you guys. So today's plan, we're going to go through 6 different areas. So first, do we need a plan or plan A? Right, so we're going to be diving more into this. Secondly, we have got the Unmessy Timetable, followed by hardcore notes, ? Play hard, work smart, trash those mistakes, and lastly, how do we ace? Right, so we're going to go step by step. It's going to be a sequential based learning video, so just follow along. Or if you guys are interested in a specific part, right, you want to find out how to do a good timetable, right, skip to the next part of that video. I'll leave the timestamps in the description below as well. So first, do you have a plan or plan A? Right, so when we're looking at the A levels, to be specific, we want to, as far as possible, set up multiple plans and use any sort of tests or exams to basically experiment these plans. So what is your game plan? Right, we want to try and aim to set multiple goals and targets for yourself. Right, goal setting at the A levels is actually very important. It really does pivot and help you to have a sense of direction as to where you should be headed with that subject. So find different studying methods. Different subjects will have different methods. We'll go through some examples and use your exams or tests to be your trial and error. As far as possible when it comes to students who are in your year 2 or year 3 of preparing for your A levels, your common tests in school will not really matter in terms of whether they contribute to you having to promote or retain or etc. Right? Because you are only going to be doing the biggest exam of your life, which is going to be the A levels. So this means that any sort of common test or small little test assignments that come up along the way, use it to experiment different types of studying styles, answering techniques, right? And you find from there which one kind of like maximizes the potential for you to do well. Okay, so let's go through some examples on this. So first, some plans that we have over here is the first one, we can only focus on the big mark questions. So when we're looking at a specific paper that we are sitting for, a specific test, for instance, let's just focus on the big mark questions, right, and really try and score when it comes to these questions. So this allows you to narrow down on the big mark questions, of course, and the full focus is on scoring well for these questions, others being secondary. Okay, so not that you don't do the other questions, you don't neglect it, you still have those questions done, but the focus is to ensure that we nail and try and score as high as we can for the big mark questions, which usually either require more skills or they may also require more content, right? So just focus on that. The week leading up to the exam, go ahead and study for that specific type of questions instead. Next kind would be to focus on evaluation. This one pertains more to our art students. Perhaps those of you who are sitting for a general paper, knowledge and inquiry or English, it could also help. So this involves ensuring that you write evaluations for all your essays, humans related subjects. So try and write out all your possible evaluations beforehand. So practice these, prepare them in advance. Or during the exams, focus on ensuring that you have indeed written your evaluations. Right, why is this important? I know it sounds like it's very easy, right? But when you actually put it into practice, you find that you often will drift away. Right, you feel that, actually I need to substantiate with content first, and then you end up missing out on the evaluation, which often in a lot of human subjects plays the biggest role when it comes to scoring a higher level mark. So always place the emphasis on what is important if you feel that evaluation is a big part of it, go ahead beforehand, take a piece of paper, write down all the possible evaluations for that specific chapter. Then when it comes to the actual exam, go ahead and practice those, right? Apply it to the question. Right, some of the examples we have here, you can focus on, let's say, examples and your case studies, also a good way. So just focus on getting the examples nailed down, your statistics, your trends, your concrete examples, anecdotal examples. Of course, you try and avoid those, right, when it comes to A-levels. The last one. Next one could be time management. I know a lot of students tend to struggle with time management, so you may want to focus, how do you segregate your time? So you're going to spend 20 minutes on the first essay, 40 minutes on the second essay. If the time hits that 40-minute mark, you stop. You put your pen down, you move on to the next question, no matter whether you have finished the essay or not. Right? Even for other questions like math, science related, you have to segregate based on the various sections of the paper. Last one could be to just nail down your MCQ questions, right? A lot of times, students tend to neglect MCQ because why? It's the last paper, right? It's usually the last paper of the entire series. So you either neglect it or either that you completely just don't even practice them, right? So this could be something you want to focus on, because actually, if you think about it, MCQ does actually make up a percentage in determining whether you stand between a B or an A. So it is still important, right? You still want to focus on these multiple choice questions, right, as far as possible. So the list goes on, and different subjects would have different ways of crafting a different plan. Some could require you to create your own mind map, to do up a neat question analysis. So go and experiment yourself, and when it comes to the test, make sure you go and really try out these plans, right? Because it helps you to understand if it works within that given time constraint, which will be what you're facing during the actual A-levels. Right, next we have the Unmessy Timetable. So messy versus organized, choose one as far as possible. Of course, every student wants an organized timetable, right? I would assume. Right, so the messy timetable may sound effective, but it could be unrealistic to follow. So messy does not always mean that, you have got, this slot chunked in here, another slot chunked in there, that kind of stuff. It could just be that it's unrealistic, right? For example, you give yourself, let's say, half an hour to do an econ essay, right? But in reality, you need 1 hour, so it could be unrealistic, right? Or for instance, you give yourself 8 hours just for econ, and then what happens to geog? What happens to general paper? What happens to your other subjects? You basically don't have time. So it could be unrealistic. You have got unequal and unproportionate subject time distribution. When we look at having an organized timetable, we look at there being buffer time. So times that you allocate for, let's say, breaks, for lunch breaks, for dinner, for breakfast, for, let's say, if you are, let's say, a Christian, you have got church, you set aside time for that, right? And likewise for any other social events that you may have. So time distribution is weighted and it's well focused, it's well scoped, and it could be also color coded, right, for easier recognition. A blank, plain black and white timetable is never really fun to look at, right? So go and color code them if it really does help in your journey to understand your time better. So this is an example, right? So this is one example of a timetable. If, as you can see over here, let's just draw it out, all right? So this person over here, let's go with black, right? Wakes up at around 6 to 7, very early. Okay, then we can see over here that what happens is that around 7 to 8, they have breakfast. And let's say on Sunday, they spend maybe a few hours at church. After that, they focus on, let's say, geog DRQ, followed by dinner. And then they go on to math, and they end the day with some GP. Because maybe you say GP is their better subject, they do not need as much time to do it. And then on the other days, for example, a Tuesday or Wednesday, let's say this is a holiday timetable, right? Assuming that there's no school, they focus on geog for, let's say, quite a few hours over here, 9 to around 12:31. Right? And then physics, likewise, they give it the same time. And they space it out, right? Every day they have got a bit of geog, a bit of econ, right? They have a bit of math. Right? So in that case, and they even space over here their medical appointment as well. You notice this timetable is actually color-coded, so it's easy to recognize when you need to spend time on which subject, and you realize that there is a rather equal proportion across all the subjects that they are studying. So this could be one way, a good way to actually craft yourself a good timetable. Next, hardcore notes, right? do we actually need hardcore notes? Honestly, not really, right? So there isn't a need to go all crazy, with notes, right? Don't feel that, there is such a, tumultuous task that you have to complete all your notes. There isn't, right? But one thing that's very important and is a must is that you have to learn to do your notes by yourself. I think that's very important. A lot of times students, ask their friends for free notes. They just solely rely on school lecture notes. It may not always be sufficient, right? So you may want to focus on doing notes for yourself. So we have actually done a video before on this, right? How to write effective notes. I'll leave a link in the top right corner of the screen and in the description below, so you can go and check that out. This is just an example of a page of notes that we have for our students. So could be a way of doing notes for yourself. Online notes is one of the methods. Next, play hard, work smart, right? End of the day, very important that you need to have is always to get yourself a good break, right? Try not to spend too much time studying, and then you end up losing out on welfare, right? You go crazy and then you burn out before the exams. Learn to have a break every now and then, right? People who do well exams, they get a fair share of rest and fun. So even on your timetable by rewarding yourself with breaks, just do not be excessive, right? A lot of times students go beyond. They say that, okay, I'll take a half an hour break, but they end up extending that to 2 hours because of procrastination. So be very, very disciplined. Focus on the break time that you have for yourself. A good tip is to take 30 minutes every 2 to 3 hours. It spaces it out quite evenly for yourself, and it's been somewhat proven to be one of the more effective segregation of break and studying time. Right, lastly, A is the final step, right? A is how do we ace the exam? So when you're going into the exam, be confident when you're heading in. If you stumble across any questions that you are unsure of, an issue, just skip it. Do not ever spend time pondering whether you should answer the question this way, that way, or any of that, right? Just skip it. There's no harm skipping it, right? Come back to the question later when you have the time, right? You want to focus on really bagging those marks, right? Get as much or as many marks as possible. Right, lastly is a pro tip, right? Top students don't usually compare answers or search up their answers online after the exam, right? So things like going to Reddit, going online to search for examples, for examples to the answers, for answers themselves. Try not to do it, because if you find that, let's say you get a few questions wrong, very often you may tell yourself otherwise, but very often your mental will actually be affected, and you start to overthink about whether perhaps most of the questions you answered were wrong, right? And this can lead you into a downward spiral, and it could cause your subsequent papers to become affected as well. So as far as possible, after the exam, take your bag, run home, don't talk to your friends, just go home, focus on the next paper that is up and coming. So that's actually all we have for this little short series on how do you actually study smart instead of studying hard. So these are just 6 different steps, right, that really will go a long way. I know it sounds very easy to actually execute, right? But when you actually put it into practice, you find that it's not as easy as it sounds, right? So really go and take some time to try out these different steps. Focus hard on nailing them down, and you will really be on your way to get, the distinctions that you did. Because I myself followed these steps, and that's how myself and my team have all gotten our distinctions as well. Right, so that's all for this video. Just a little short video. I hope you guys did learn something. As always, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out a lot. And if you have any questions, likewise, you can always leave it in the comment section below. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, have a good one, and bye bye.